NGUYEN, the process manager for the Betty Project based out of San Francisco. Six, can you turn on your video and your microphone? There we go. Hey, welcome.
Hey, what's up?
So Six, I'm sure you've heard this a lot. So I think everyone is familiar with the guy from the series High Maintenance, but you are actually the guy in real life, being a bicycle messenger in Chicago and New York. Tell us a little bit how you got started in the whole cannabis game. When did you start? How did that happen?
Yeah, 6 origins, I'll let you know. When I first started smoking weed, it was still like a very quiet hush hush thing. I had my main job at the time, which was actually in biopharmaceuticals. And I started seeing how like medicine on a corporate scale helps people. But, there's a lot of like gaps in between there. Well, while I was there, one of my coworkers sold me some weed. And from there, I saw it as a potential to sell it to other people. I had a side hustle, delivering pizza, delivering food, delivering for anything really. And while I was doing that, I realized that my side hustle can actually help out my weed hustle. And so those two in conjunction kind of brought me into, delivering things on bicycles, delivering cannabis on bicycles.
And was that and you're from California, right? You're from Southern California.
Yeah. And so that brought me out
started
me off in San Francisco. And then from there, I saw the potential of being able to be mobile and go across the country. And so I had a residence in Chicago, I had a residence in New York, and being able to thrive out there as an Asian American, it was different, it was unique. And yeah, it was quite an experience.
So what brought you to Chicago? Was it opportunity? Was it another job? Was it girl?
I had a best friend at the time, and I asked him for 3 things. I needed 3 things from him. It was a place to stay, a job, and weed to smoke. And he was able to provide me on all 3 fronts. And essentially I said, I love California, but there's opportunity outside of there. And so quickly I was taken akin to the communities I was a part of. Being a California kid, I was really sociable. People loved how different I was. And to be honest, like even the groups I was in, not a whole ton of Asians, not a whole ton of people of color. So I think it kind of helped. And those type of communities, I'd like to say there's a lot of inclusivity. A lot of folks brought me in as their own, and it's not really about the color of your skin or your gender or even your sexual preference. It was about quality people doing quality things.
And then what brought you to New York?
Same thing. I mean, New York is a hustling city. There's so much opportunity, even more so. Like Chicago was like the stepping stone, and it brought me all the way up to New York afterwards. Like I could tell you the things I'd done in the first 24 hours of being there are like things I never did for a whole month in Chicago or like a full month in San Francisco. Like, like the hustle is real out there, and it really the bravado and personalities that I met along the way, really shaped my future. So
I mean, and being a bike messenger in any city is no joke, but being a bike messenger in New York is almost legendary status. I know.
Oh yeah. There's lots of legends out there still out in the streets, still doing it, and it's honestly amazing.
One thing you mentioned before I thought was really interesting is you mentioned like being a bike messenger let you through any door. How was that being helpful? How did that help? How that protect your weed game?
Well, so that was the cool thing about being a bike messenger is that already like the preconceived notions of bike messengers was that, well, one, whatever they're delivering, you can't really touch. So anytime I went into a building, right, and I mean, even if they kind of, I mean, I didn't have anything that would make me smell unless like I just smoked a joint and I walked in the building. But pretty much the guys of being a bike messenger allowed me to walk into places and interact with folks that I never would have been able to if I was just like a weed delivery service. You know, so a really cool, like, I mean, really cool thing I would try to do with folks is that anytime I would be able to, like, say, deliver one thing, I would either I'm delivering a package, food, paperwork. I usually strike up conversations with my clients or whoever I'm interacting with. And if I ever get the notion that they may like weed or they smoke weed, but, you know, because 10 years ago, no one's going to outwardly say, yeah, 420 friendly, totally. It had to be a little bit more nuanced than that. So it was like, you know, it was like certain code words or code phrases like, oh, you smell really dank, or you smell really good. And, or, you know, one thing I really enjoyed doing was that I always carried this pencil box, and inside my pencil box was just joints. And whenever I felt like I could talk to somebody, I would ask them if they would like one of my custom pencils. You know, it's got my name on it. You should definitely try to use it, write a good story, right? Make a little thing. And most people were definitely weirded out to hear that. So as soon as I opened up my pencil box and there was just like racks of joints, you know, it went one of two ways. Like they could just like, oh yeah, I'll take that, you know, and that's the start of our conversation, another conversation, or simply they'll just like, oh, no, thank you. You know, so it was kind of being able to being a bike messenger, giving me access to places allowed me to really flourish in my cannabis game.
So you got to go directly into people's houses, into people's personal spaces, into people's offices. Any places stand out? Any quirky things that have happened or stories that stand out to you?
I mean, a lot of the folks I've met throughout the years are pretty damn quirky. I mean, I'm quirky myself, and I think I'm just drawn to quirky people. I love them. Eccentricity is the best. One of my favorite quirky folks is a guy who actually he buys everything that I don't want to sell to people. Like he'll buy my trim, he'll buy my smalls, he'll buy my waste, and then he actually cooks it down and then turns it into tea. And I like him so much is because he when he gets high, he starts messaging me about his like projects, about how he wants to create these like and he's also a bike nerd, but he'll get into these like a restoration of an 1893 Schwinn tandem that was verified by the grandson of the Schwinn bicycle company, like, or something weird like that. And so, I mean, like, it's honestly the best. Like, I love these random texts from him. So.
And then what do you think is the biggest difference between the underground markets in each of these cities that you served?
Well, in Chicago, everyone is a lot chiller. Everyone's a lot nicer. Things happen. It was also not as competitive. There were a number of serves in the area, but for example, like if somebody liked you and you were good on time, then, you know, they'll continue to work with you, as opposed to New York. I feel like if it's not this minute, it's the next minute. And if you're not in this minute, then it's going to go to somebody else. And things move a lot faster out there than they did in Chicago, which also meant there was a lot of wins and gains and losses, but, you know, it was all a lot of fun.
If you don't mind me jumping in on here, on those differences between Chicago and New York, I know Jacoby wants some numbers. What kind of volume differences were there, or product types? Did you find any, like maybe people in Chicago like joints versus New York like blunts? Are there any differences like that in terms of like the products and the volume?
I think in Chicago, folks don't mind the range. You can have a lot of mids. You could be working with mids. You can be working with top shelf and exotics. I think most folks in Chicago were definitely more like, what's that word? They were definitely more easygoing about like the type of options you had. While in New York, they were, I mean, both cities were at the time, I mean, they were definitely more flower. I didn't have as much concentrates or extracts out there. So at the time I was mainly working with flower, but definitely in the New York market, they brought in top shelf. Like if it's top shelf, that definitely looked like top shelf. If it was mids, I knew it was mids, you know, like they definitely had the good shit too. Yeah, but definitely a lot higher numbers too. There were definitely higher volumes out in New York for that same reason.
Go ahead, Peter.
So I've always been curious about how does the game actually work. So you have like your supplier, and then you have your contacts. And some, I know for some companies, I don't know how it was for you, they'll have like a relay person. And so you'll get a text, okay, you can pick up your stuff for the day or for however long until it lasts. And then you have a relay person who will tell you where to go and when. And then sometimes you can communicate with the people directly. Just like, can you break down like the mechanics of how it worked?
Yeah. What was it? So I would connect with my supplier, and thing is, it was really, I think I was pretty fortunate because my supplier didn't have, like, I didn't have to buy a single strain in a unit or in a pound, right? I could buy, in a pound, I could buy 12 or 16 different ounces of whatever. And so being able to get a supplier with variety allowed me a better menu on my side. So when that translated to my clients, I mean, with me, it wasn't just about the money, it was about the relationship. So a lot of these people I didn't know, or I eventually knew, or I got to know. And so I would personally, they call me up, they hit me up. I would give them what kind of options I had. I'd ask them what they were into, like what kind of night you're gonna have, what you wanna do with this. And then I would give them my recommendations. Based off of my recommendations, I'll deliver what I can. And you know, and I usually toss in a little bit extra because, I mean, it always makes them feel special. And I think because of that little extra jazz, it makes the whole experience better for them.
So you were bud tending, delivery, customer service.